The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Checking out on Bitcoin, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index currently trading at $63,934. Bitcoin is down about 1% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at $4,605. ETH is sliding about 2.2%. And the new DFX CoinDesk's DeFi index is down about 3.6%, trading at about 614 points. Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Michael Venuto, Chief Investment Officer at Toroso Investments. Hello there, Michael. Welcome to the show. So there's been a broad retreat in the crypto markets since the all-time highs reached earlier this week. Where do we go from here?
Higher. I'm just teasing you. Like, Lawrence, every time I come on, I tell you 100K. I'm still there. I think we're going to see it before 2022.
Well, I mean, I could say that's 7 weeks away. But my question to you is this: is that we have institutions. There was a lot of excitement about institutions coming into the market, and then the ETF launched, and there seemed to be some activity. And the price has fallen down now a little bit since the peak. But do you think you will see institutions come back into the market? I mean, obviously, you have a high price target there, but do you think it'll be institution driven or will it be retail driven? What's really going to spur it on over the next few weeks, and why?
Yeah, so right now we just had a crazy infrastructure bill passed that made rules and laws that will not really go into effect for another 2 years, and in my opinion, maybe never. But what that did is it made it clear that our government stance is not to ban Bitcoin, not to look at this and say this is the biggest problem. They've come in and said, we got to figure out how to tax it. We've got to figure out how to embrace it, right? China banning Bitcoin was one of the best things it could do, or banning the mining, because they took free energy or subsidized energy and said, now go figure out how to do this somewhere else where you need renewable energies and things like that. That's created a boom in places like Texas. I just visited a mine in North Carolina. A whole town is being rebuilt around crypto mining. You see what Hut 8's earnings just look like. So the excitement around the infrastructure in crypto in the mining, I think, brings Wall Street to the table and brings that institutional money.
It's interesting that you mentioned the infrastructure bill, because that's generally considered to be, I mean, you're right, it is acknowledging that crypto is going to be here and they have to tax it, but it's also definitely not good for crypto in terms of how it's created in the infrastructure bill. Yeah, but putting that aside for a moment. So, this past week or so has been a total roller coaster, right? We had, Bitcoin soaring to a new all-time high and then retreating considerably. One of the narratives out there is that, the all-time high was a response to inflation and, consumer price index being up over 6% year over year. And then, it crashed because people had time to digest the inflation report and they were worried about interest rate hikes. And I'm just curious, do you buy into that whole narrative, or do you think it's just sort of a sideshow?
So I think there will be a massive correlation between inflation and the price of cryptocurrencies, right? They're going to be beneficiaries. The problem is inflation is a catch-all phrase, right? So what crypto or Bitcoin specifically, because of its limited supply, is it's a hedge against the decrease in your purchasing power of your dollar, right? That's the thesis. It's not just like it goes up and therefore it's good and that makes it an inflation hedge. No, it's limited supply versus unlimited supply. So I love that traditional finance media is now covering the stuff that you folks cover on a daily basis, because inflation's here, it's not transitory. Bitcoin's here, it's not transitory. The government's now acknowledging it, and institutions have now lost their one last fear point, which is the government going to ban it? No, they're going to tax it.
Do you think that maybe some of the rise we're seeing in the alts right now, obviously everyone's saying, well, people are looking for the next Ethereum killer, or they're looking for the platforms, but could it really be that people are actually using the alts as the ultimate inflation hedge rather than Bitcoin and even ETH? In other words, they're saying, look, yeah, I could probably double my money in Bitcoin over the next several months to deal with inflation issues. or I can buy some coin with an animal like a dog or something like that, for instance, which maybe will quadruple, quintuple, and then some. And let me place my bets there to deal with in my inflation worries at home. So have the alts taken some of the wind out of the sails of Bitcoin?
No, the alts are exciting because they can move a lot. Their alts are, for most people, about speculation. And what I tell people is, if you go into the alts, it's not speculation, it's buy and learn, right? There's a lot of things that are going to be great about these altcoins. The infrastructure's not there yet, right? We're at the same use of cryptocurrency level that we were at the internet in 1998. And there's going to be a lot of pets.coms out there. And a lot of them are going to be rebirthed as Chewy.com 20 years later when the infrastructure's there. So if you're going to go into if you prefer dogs on your money instead of presidents, learn about it. That's it.
Michael, what kind of alts are you interested in?
I find Axie really exciting. I just think it's amazing that they've created their own ecosystem. I was listening to your previous segment about what's going on in Korea, and it reminded me of how Axie has built its own ecosystem. For us, in our ETF and block, where we get our exposure to alts through things like Voyager and various different entities that mine different coins. Like I've been to many of these mines where it's not just, usually the mines are 90% Bitcoin, and then there's a rack of servers in the back that have Dash or Dogecoin or Litecoin and the merge mining and things like that.
Hey, so Michael, you mentioned Voyager and some of the miners. So let's say somebody wants to play the equity market with crypto exposure. What do you think are their best bets right now over the next few months?
Yeah, so in block right now, we have about 25% in the miners. Our top positions in that space would be Hut 8. They just had some amazing numbers, and they're really good at dealing with the capital markets. And that's a really hard part about crypto mining, is keeping yourself flush with traditional fiat to pay to get the new machines when you need them. Hive's also really interesting because you get the Ethereum mining and Frank's work in that space. Riot, Mara, those are some of the tops. One thing that we did really interesting recently is Block participated in an IPO for Stronghold Digital, which is basically an environmental cleanup company that is getting rid of burning waste coal that's been there for 80 years polluting the environment. And because of the use of the energy created by cleaning up that coal, they're able to make themselves profitable by turning it into Bitcoin, by essentially digitizing that excess energy from the cleanup. I never thought a company like that would exist. What a change in narrative, right? We went from bad energy consumption in China to now cleaning up bad coal and turning it into digitized energy or code in the form of Bitcoin.
Do you expect to see more correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market?
Wow. I don't know how to answer that one. I guess it depends on the Fed, right? If the stock market's only correlated to what Jay Powell does today, and if he stays there and continues to be dovish, yeah, they'll probably correlate. I think the question is more about the Fed than Bitcoin to the markets, though.
So, do you think we'll see? You think you'll see a renomination of Powell, or do you think Biden's just going to throw him to the side there?
I'm hearing a lot from people I know in finance that say they think that it's a good chance he's out, but I don't see how it's possible to make that happen this quickly. And I don't know what the political motivation would be. And the reality is whoever else they put in there is still going to do the same thing, right? We are a money printing country at the moment, and I'm glad to have an alternative to the US dollar in the form of Bitcoin.
An alternative to the US dollar. Do you ever think that Bitcoin could be the reserve currency that would replace the US dollar?
I think it will make the need for a reserve currency unnecessary. It gives us the ability to be free outside the financial system. right? So look, I've been in the ETF industry 25 years. I got interested in crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain because I saw it as a threat to my day job, right? And rather than run from that, I said, how do I get ahead of it and start to learn about the companies here, create access points for investors in traditional finance, and then embrace the technologies, because in 5 or 10 years, people aren't going to be trading ETFs. They're going to be trading BTFs or tokens themselves, BTFs and blockchain traded funds.